All right, here we go. We are live. Hello, everybody out there. Thank you for tuning in this evening. For those of you who are watching tonight, and for those of you who are watching later on, thank you as well. This is going to be session number 8 for our On the Rise campaign, a Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition Asian campaign set in my homebrew world of Rostfin. And before we get too far along, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over. Did I say On the Rise? I am so sorry. Ashes of Heaven. On the Rise is 2 days from tonight. So, where was I? Yes. I'm going to pass it over to my players so that they can do their introductions. Hopefully, we will give a little bit of time for our 5th player to make his entrance. And then we'll touch on a couple points of business before we get started. So, without further ado, Dave, why don't you take us out?
Hey folks, Dave with Mornblade Gaming, and I will be playing once known as Longway Luke, Nintai Tadashi, a recent convert to the Scorpion Clan. Yeah, looking forward to doing some kung fu fighting.
Well, hopefully everybody is, because everybody's kung fu fighting. Carol, you're up.
Hi, I'm Carol with Dunsters and Dragons, and which still makes me laugh. But anyway, I'm playing Kakasu Yoru, who is basically like a Tabaxi character in Jeremy's homebrew world here. And she's a bard, just to make things a little different. I'm having a great time in this game. I don't know if there's much else to say about Yoru or not, but she is who she is, and I'm having a lot of fun playing her.
Fantastic. Everybody who mentions a channel, you should be able to find the link to their channel in the description of this video down below. Definitely go check them out. Next up, we've got Alan.
My name's Alan. You can check me out on Check for Traps. I am playing Soaring Crane, who is a human monk who is on a spiritual journey of self-enlightenment and self-discovery. And so far, not much enlightenment, but definitely a lot of self-discovery. So, but yeah, if you've been watching so far, hopefully there will be dumplings in this session.
There may just be, if there's any justice in the world. And for now, at least, last but not least, we have Jeff.
Yes, hello everybody. I'm Jeff. I have a YouTube channel. It's called Encounterbalance. You can check out my games and stuff there. I've also started doing some new video style stuff on there, so check that out if you're interested. I'm also in a podcast with Jeremy Lilly, our GM here, and Chad Nick, called The Dudes of Yore. We just recorded a brand new episode. It's not up yet, but it should be hopefully pretty soon. I'm going to try to wrap that up soon enough. So yeah, looking forward to getting into the game. I'm playing Saito Minori, a Scorpion Clan ninja with some strange mystical stuff going on. So I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Excellent. So, hopefully, like I said, our 5th player will show up here in just a moment. But before we get the game actually officially started, this is the warning that I usually give out on the beginning of all my videos. If foul language bothers you, if topics that venture into the mature bother you, sorry, this is an adult game. These are all adults as far as I am to understand. And if that kind of stuff is problematic for you, you really should just go ahead and check out now. There will be talk about the Kung Fu system. Once again, if you're starting here, probably not the best place. That's explained in session 0. And there are several other sessions that you should probably watch before number 8, which is this one. Do you guys have any kinds of questions before we go over the recap? No? Okay. So, last time, you guys finalized the deal with the Scorpion Clan Kuroyama, that he would pledge the Scorpion Clan to the cause of facing this barbarian horde. And he actually titled Luke as a samurai within his clan, which is no small honor, and is a great gift, if you will. But immediately, you were charged with making sure that the word of this coming war met the ears of the Emperor. And so you then took a journey through the spirit world, which was probably the first time for most of you, if not all of you. And the way that the teleportation magic works in this setting is through incense that transport your spirit to the spirit realm where the journey is much shorter as far as the distance and time that it takes to arrive. However, it is perilous, and you guys all learned that whenever you came across a couple of harrowing spirits who are a little bit malevolent at the moment. There's a lot of imbalance and impurity that's kind of tipping the scales in the realm of the spirits at the moment. And luckily, Yu Jin's teacher, mentor, managed to find you in the spirit realm and basically buy you enough of a distraction that you could get away from the remaining evil spirit. And you managed to finish your journey through the spirit world and have just arrived outside of the gates of Tsi-Bon, which is the capital of the empire. Okay. So, let us begin. We find ourselves in this now familiar building, this palace hallway, with this same tapestry that we have grown very accustomed to. This watercolor depiction of the events that we have heard of thus far in this legend. And as we pan slowly down this long, long tapestry, we see many moments that we recognize. And soon, we find ourselves arriving at the city of Tsi-Bon. This is a city larger than any of you have likely ever even imagined. It's filled with people and the buildings that tower over them. There's an ocean of rooftops. And even beneath the drape of white snow that covers everything here, you can still see the abundance of vibrant red and gleaming gold. The Mon of the Phoenix clan adorns nearly every building, and you think that there may be a silk banner snapping in the winter wind for every man, woman, and child in this, the Imperial city. You now stand outside the walls of this Imperial city, and the gatehouse, or one of many, probably gatehouses, is easily within walking distance from this small teleportation ring that you find yourself standing in now. Maybe a little dizzy from the journey. What would you like to do?
Well, before they go into the city, Yordo's going to take just a second and make sure that her robes are arrayed, and wave her hand in the air, mutter a few words, and you'll see that any soiling or dirt or anything just sort of seems to fall away from her clothing, and so that she looks pristine and neat and clean for whatever comes up as she casts prestidigitation.
Minori is going to look to the others after taking a moment to kind of stabilize after the journey through such treacherous and strange realms. And he's going to look to the others and say, I think it is very important that we move with subtlety, at least to start with. Keep our knowledge close to our chest. Only tell who we have to at first. We can leverage that information later against other people if we need to. Our cause is dire, but that does not mean that the Emperor will listen easily. Very few do. We need to play smart if we want the best results.
Well, I don't know how much more proof we need, considering yourselves and the writ and everything else that has been going on.
Not getting any sound from you, Scott, if you're talking.
You can't hear me right now? Did anybody have anything else while Scott's trying to see if you can get that working?
I would agree with our new companion. We should definitely not be forthcoming with too much information until we know who we can trust.
Alan, you smell. Soaring Crane smells the food district. He can smell the meats roasting, the rice cooking, and above it all, he smells dumplings.
Being so tempted in the spirit realm, being unable to partake of such deliciousness. There's a loud growl coming from his stomach, and at this point, he can simply not resist, and he begins to find himself wandering towards the food district.
Testing. Nothing? You guys are getting nothing?
See your mouth moving, but no sound.
Getting nothing. Okay. I can barely hear you, but it's super quiet.
Which microphone is it set to?
Oh, try now, Scott.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. It's still a little quiet, but overall it is much better.
Let me try something. You guys hear anything now?
It's just actually quieter for me.
Yeah.
It might be this laptop. I might have to change.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. I don't know where Carol went, but
She said
sure
she was
she'll be.
having problems with her Chrome, but there she is.
Yeah, she's back. Okay. So the five of you approach the gate, and it's standing wide open. It's past morning already, and though it is winter and there's not many travelers, there are people who live not far from the city, who are in farming villages and the like, who will often come to the city for the day, for business or otherwise. So these gates stand open, and you're able to walk right into the city without anybody stopping you. And as you are kind of entering, with Jin kind of following his nose, very quickly you're able to find your way towards rows and rows of buildings that are little more than stalls, just serving different kinds of food. Some of them are not even properly in a building. They're just a freestanding shack, if you will, kind of out on the street. Some of them are even wagons that still have the wheels on them. They're just serving out of the back or off the side. But there is no shortage of delicacies that are being sold here. And there are people everywhere. These rickshaws are having to shout as they're busting through crowds of people, getting people to move out of their way as they take their passengers to and fro.
Yeah, with like zero hesitation, Jin just like lets his stomach lead him as he kind of brushes aside the little flap to this little noodle stand, and he goes ahead and just orders a big bowl of noodles and some bun and some dumplings. I mean, just whatever they have, and some tea, and they start cooking it up, and it smells really good and everything, and the sound of the water and the steam and all that, and the bowl hits the table there, and immediately he just starts just slurping it up when they ask him to pay. And like with a mouth just full of food, he just looks like caught off guard as he takes a big gulp.
You don't have any money?
Oh no.
You lousy crane.
It actually just
Check.
Yep.
We can hear you.
and he just like reaches through the flap and just like grabs Suki, pulls him in.
It's stumbling in. All he has to do is just assess the predicament. Just look around. He's doesn't have money again, does he?
A friend of yours?
He does have friends. And takes out like a silver and tosses it to the guy, knowing full well that a silver probably covers more than enough of it.
Yeah, he'll kind of take it, look at it a little in disbelief. You need to leave.
Leave? We just paid you for the meal. More.
No, you can stay. Your friend, he should go.
Still, like with mouthful of food, as he just keeps eating, and he's just.
He starts like grabbing the half full plates and bowls that are still in front of you.
And he's like holding on to it, like this whole like back and forth, like.
Whoa, sir. I just paid you for the food, and if there's another reason why he needs to be leaving, please explain.
He comes in here and he starts eating, and he has no way of paying. If not for you to save him, he would have. Then what? Washed my dishes?
No. He knew that he was covered. This is just a daily routine with us.
Fine. Okay. He stays as long as you have coin.
I just gave you a silver.
Yes, that almost covers a little more than he's eaten already.
And he flips him another coin, and my headset just tell me that the battery is low on it. I'm going to punch the child. Never recharges this thing.
He'll take the coin from you and kind of nod, and then kind of disappears back where he was cooking before. What are the rest of you doing?
Yoro looks at her old friend, still wanting to call him Luke, but remembers it's Tadashi now. Tadashi, would you like to get a few dumplings? She kind of gives a shake in the snow.
Yeah, and actually he's almost lost in thought as he is watching the street and rather intently for something, and he's not sure what, but he's kind of half there and half in the recent moments of things that have happened and the rush of change that he's going through. And he stops for a moment, and then he can hear Yoru, but for a moment there, he's holding his hand out, and there's snow falling on it, and then he looks to his left and realizes that he's still has gore. Not too much, but there's still gore on his armor. And he kind of flushes ashamed for a moment, and he says, yes, that would be good. We should eat. But, and he begins, like, trying to use the snow to sort of wash the blood off of his armor.
Here,
and then
let me
drying
take
it.
care of that for you. And she mutters some words and waves her hand, and all the dirt just falls off his armor, and he's sparkling clean again as she casts the digitation again. That should do it.
He smiles and bows and says, thank you. Always there with a quick word of arcane delight.
Well,
yes.
You don't want to be untidy. Minori, what about you?
Yeah, and you would see, you're not sure exactly when he would have done it or how he could possibly have done it, but you would see that he was wearing completely different clothes that did not match at all anything that he's worn so far. They're like much finer, almost bearing an air of not royalty, but, you know, upper class. He seems to somehow have managed to find and don at some point. Says, no, I'm doing okay. Thank you, though.
Yoru quite appreciates that, because as being in the merchant class, she's very aware of the status of clothing and things like that. And she just kind of gives an appreciative nod. I guess she's going to go in after dumplings and noodles. But she will eat a great deal more daintily than Jin.
Yeah, I imagine by the time you arrive, there's already probably like 2 bowls emptied, like stacked up on each other. And he's still going.
And as the rest of you that are intending to do so enter this small little stand, you're able to kind of sit and relax for a moment, get out of the snowy weather, and take the weight off of your feet, which is, it's been a while, even though you know the journey only took you less than a day to come here. It was an eventful day. So you're able to sit and eat and drink tea for pretty much as long as you like, as long as you continue to pay. Though the cook seems like a fairly disgruntled individual, he seems happy to continue serving you, as long as the coin flows.
Check.
Yep.
I heard myself on somebody else's screen. All right. So And by this point, Suki would have already probably put like 2 or 3 just solid gold coins down on the table. Like he would have seen what was happening and been like, oh. And he would have thrown a few down and been, I'm covering everyone.
Thank you, Suki. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm more covering him than everyone else. He's going to eat probably at least 4 or 5 of each of you.
Quite likely. And she kind of grins.
Yeah, Jin just kind of claps his hands together, bows to Yusuke, looks at the chef. I may have not brought coin, but I have brought customers.
The cook kind of just groans and rolls his eyes, goes back to steaming some rice. So, Jin, while you are famished and are doing your best to solve that problem, how is the encounter that you just had weighing on Soaring Crane? The fact that you just met with, briefly, your mentor, Silken Sky, in the spirit realm.
So, I would imagine just, even though he's trying to remain lighthearted, it's weighing on him greatly. He's definitely worried for his Sifu, knowing that even though she is a very skilled and powerful monk, the spirit world is not, it's not a place for mortals, and the spirits are much stronger there than they are in the material realm. So he is, in the back of his mind, he is definitely trying to reach her spiritually to see if she will answer.
As of now, there's no indication. There's no reply or anything. You think that it would require deeper meditation. But she has also described to you more than one encounter that she has lived through in the spirit realm. So you know it's definitely not something that she is completely new to. So maybe there is hope yet. So as the rest of you get full, and Jen seems to at least be slowing down, what would you like to do then? What's next?
Only because I missed a recap. Where are we?
You are in the Imperial capital of Tsi-Bon, having just exited the spirit realm, just outside the city gates.
And our main mission is to get to the Emperor, is it not?
Kind of what it sounded like before.
But we do have the warning from our little sneaky ninja friend that probably take it kind of slow. Proceed with caution as it is.
Yes.
All right. Well, Suki would kind of bring that up. So, who has the idea? How are we running this? As he's swooping in noodles and stuff. Might as well eat himself.
We should be able to at least make our way towards the heart of the capital when we're ready. Get in touch with whoever we need to in order to set an appointment with what needs to be done. I can try to arrange such a thing. I may be able to pull some strings.
What time of day is it?
probably mid-morning, going on midday by the time that you're probably finished eating and relaxing.
Okay. In that case, yes, definitely. We should see if we can get in as soon as reasonable. I know these things might take a little time, but what's coming is coming and coming quickly. We don't have a lot of time to waste, as I'm sure you well know.
All right, so our ninja friend has some strings that he can pull. This is all out of character, just getting all the information. So we have some strings that can be pulled. Then in character, all right. How do we go about this? How do we get tugging on these strings?
Well, we'll have to go try to arrange an appointment at the very least, which I should be able to get set up. Once we manage that, as soon as they're able to make space for us, we should be able to get an audience with at least somebody important, if not the Emperor himself.
Well then, we finish our food and we head out.
I wonder if I might be able to make some contacts with some of the merchants too that might have some political pull here in the capital.
Well, we'll have to walk past all these places on the way.
I'll see what I can come up with.
I should visit one of the shrines. See if I can make contact with my Sifu. Ensure that she is all right, and she may have more information for us.
We'll probably need housing. Seems to me the merchants might put us up again.
You know that's definitely a possibility. That your guild has some ties here, it being the Imperial capital. You probably seek someone out who might be willing to put you up at least for a steeply discounted price.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. So, it sounds like you might be heading in separate directions. And Yoru sounds like she's going to go talk to some of the merchants and see about lodgings and or political connections that they might be able to pull. Jin sounds like he is going to seek out a shrine and meditate in the attempt of contacting Silken Sky. And Minori sounds like he is going to do what Minori does and try to find acquaintances, business associates. What are Tadashi and Tsukiko up to? Where are they headed?
Realizing that we're the party.
I caught the very beginning and the very end of what you said.
You can't hear me again?
I caught the very beginning and the very end. I missed the whole middle. What did you say?
Your connection just faded for a second, that's all.
Yeah. Realizing that we shouldn't split the party is what I jokingly said.
Gotcha.
Suki would probably end up going with Crane, knowing they've been best friends growing up, and so his natural instinct would be, well, if you're going to go do this, then I'll do what I usually do and train and practice. So while he would be doing that, he would probably be going through his forms, pretty much playing guard.
Okay.
Yeah, and Tadashi, realizing that while he is now one of the Scorpion Clan, and might be useful for him to go with Minori, it's probably not best because he'd be able to move much more quickly and probably not be until they learn to work together much better, but he'll leave that up to him. And also he is still sworn to protect Yoru. So if Minori would like him to go with him.
Yeah, Minori is mostly just trying to kind of make some status appointments, so having a samurai alongside next to him would actually probably boost appearances pretty well. So he would be happy to take Tadashi along, but he wouldn't require it if he wanted to go along with Yoru instead.
I turn to Yoru and say, my lady, do you, understanding the import of our meetings, Minori it would be beneficial if I were there as a representative of the Scorpion Clan.
Yes, yes, I believe that you are right in that. I have Copper. She can help me.
Good point.
I won't be alone. And we should plan where we're going to meet up when we're done with our errand.
Agreed.
Well, I'm sure by then Jin's stomach will be growling again, so might as well meet back at the same noodle shop. If you'll let us eat there again.
Well, it's already growling.
That's the digestion.
Oh dear. Yes, we could do that. We could meet there for an evening meal, perhaps.
Saying about, what do you guys think, 3-4 hours? What time of day was it again?
Approaching midday.
Midday?
Yeah. So he said it was about late morning. So
Yeah. Sorry, it's approaching midday.
Yeah. So I say we should just be able to meet by the evening, by the time the sun is setting, I would think.
When the sun starts to break the horizon on its way down, we'll meet back at the food stall. Tickling my nose, damn it.
Yes, yes. And perhaps by then I will have found us lodgings.
Okay. So you go your separate ways, heading out into the various districts, streets, alleyways, courtyards of Tsi-Bon. Let's see. We've got 3 different errands going on. So, okay, Jin and Tsukiko. It doesn't take too long before you're able to find a shrine. And this one is probably one of the larger shrines that you've seen outside of a monastery before. It's situated in a courtyard between a house with an ill reputation, a house for visiting, for pleasurable company, and the other seems to be a bathhouse. They likely have the same individual who owns them. And it might be a little strange, but in this courtyard between them, there is this rather large shrine built to the ancestors. There's a small gong hanging off to one side. There are several prayer poles and a large donation box. This kind of large chest that is situated in place with locks, and the top of it has these slots that are intended to let coin through, but are not wide enough for even the smallest of hands. There is also incense burning nearby, just underneath a long vertical scroll that looks like the names of the ancestors of this particular establishment are written.
Is there anyone tending this shrine, or?
There are people in both establishments that you can kind of see milling about, but nobody has seemed to pay any attention to you as you enter the courtyard. Would you like to try to get someone's attention, or?
Well, I mean, just if there was another monk or something that was tending the shrine, I would have approached them. If there's no one who's actually tending the shrine, then I would just go about my business.
Okay.
So Jen approaches the shrine, and he bows, says a mantra or two, and actually reaches into a small money pouch at his waist and pulls out a single copper and drops it into the box, and it makes that thud clink as it hits the bottom. And then he takes a incense, and as he turns, he meets Suki's eyes. What?
He's just kind of shaking his head. Like, for how gluttonous your appetite is, you are mighty stingy with your own coin.
No, that is for the ancestors. Your coin was for my stomach.
And the best that you can offer them on this event that you want to transpire with their help is a copper.
It is simply the gesture, and it is the only coin I have on me.
I'm surprised you actually have that, as he puts a silver in. At least pay him worth the damn. They probably get better business from the people on either side here than someone who's actually supposed to be spiritual.
And he just simply bows to Suki. I'm sure they are grateful for your donation, as he begins to light the incense. And he picks up this fan as he wafts it, which creates the incense to kind of bellow a little bit. And then he begins to get into on his knees, and he bows and begins his meditation as he tries to enter the spirit world.
You begin your meditation kind of tuning out the noise of the city around you, which is somewhat difficult for you to do at first. This much of a din is probably not something that you're very used to, especially not during meditation. But you kind of focus in on the smell of the incense and the sound of Tsukiko running his drills not that far behind you in the courtyard. And you start to find the rhythm of life here and slow your own rhythm to match it. And soon you find yourself projected somewhat into the spirit world. Now, this is different from the kind of traveling in the spirit world that you just did. This is more of a projection of yourself into this realm. But you find yourself there nonetheless. And within moments, you can find yourself seeing forms in kind of the wisps and clouds all around you. And one of them kind of coalesces into your mentor, Silken Sky. And she says, Jen, is everything all right?
Yes, we were able to make it out. Are you all right?
I am fine. I was injured, but the spirit was, well, it was placated for the time. What is going on?
Where to begin? We are on a journey to inform the Emperor of an invasion. I was able to journey with Suki to the far northern coast when we happened upon these barbarians who have begun an invasion of the land. We felt it our responsibility to journey on to the next village and try to give them time to evacuate, and we've been on our feet ever since.
I see. And that is likely very difficult for you, I would imagine. Traveling always seemed to raise your appetite, though I think, to be fair, most everything seemed to raise your appetites.
This is true. At this point, we never know when our next meal will be.
I see. The news of the Northerners invading is troubling. I will start to gather the forces of Wudang Mountain to join what the Emperor will no doubt decide when you give him the information you have given me. It is to be war, then.
I believe so, but I fear that this invading force may also have help within the Empire, though I cannot say for sure.
That is deeply troubling.
Indeed, we are not sure who we can trust, though me and Suki have gained new allies, strong and powerful. We are few in number.
Well, just as the roof is held aloft by only a few pillars, so too will your friends see you through this. They will support you. I must go. I must make preparations for a lot of travel.
And I imagine at that point it's Suki would have hit the gong, which would bring Jen out of the meditation.
Mm.
Suki. She is... She did not come out of the fight unscathed, but she is alive and well.
I've seen her fight before. I'm not surprised she survived.
Well, one could not be too careful when dealing with spirits. But she is aware of our predicament and looks to inform the other masters of Wudang to hopefully join the Emperor in repelling this invasion.
If Wudang heeds our call, then we'll have quite a strategic advantage with their help. There's a lot of seasoned warriors and fighters up there. But I do believe it is almost time for us to meet the others.
And Jen just kind of pats his stomach. I believe you may be right.
Yes, I heard it growling. That's how I knew to hit the gong for you.
Meditation takes a lot of focus and energy, Suki. You would know this if you would practice.
As he's like dripping sweat. Yeah, practice.
And as the banter of these two close friends kind of fades into the noise of the crowd of the street, as do they, we soar away to a different part of the city where Minori and Tadashi are making their way. Where, Minori? Where were you headed?
So just real quick, while they're on the way, actually, I kind of hinted at it a little bit earlier, but I have a feature, one of my Warlock features, Mask of Many Faces. But basically, Minori has completely transformed himself in appearance. Even his face and like features are different than they were before. He has the appearance of like a Scorpion. He still has Scorpion Clan garb, but it's very high quality. And he has like the appearance of like an upper class, like either a wealthy merchant or someone like directly related to the Kuroyama, something of that level. And he's basically completely put on this facade. But he would basically be trying to get to the place wherever he would need to find that would allow him to try to schedule an appointment with the Emperor. So some sort of political hub, maybe even the palace itself, wherever he would need to go to get that done.
Okay. So, yeah, you know that the palace lies within a place that is kind of a city within a city, but it's referred to as the Forbidden City. And typically no one is allowed there except for people that live and work at the palace. However, you can put in for an appointment with the Emperor. It is very rare that it's agreed to, but considering the circumstances, it's probably at least worth a shot. And there's some form of office that hears these kinds of requests.
That would be where he would want to go then.
Okay, perfect. So you kind of have made this shift, and Tadashi, is this something that you have noticed? And if so, is there any kind of reaction from you about this?
Yeah, Tadashi is actually he's trying to gauge his presence and what he needs to be doing, because he did go through training similarly like an emissary and so on, and he's trying to harken back to that, and he keeps trying to gauge his pace, but then he starts kind of thinking back to what the Ram clan would do and needs to do in these circumstances. But then he starts having this war within his head, because he's like, well, the Scorpion clan wouldn't do it that way. And then he goes through this question of, well, how would they do it? And then he finds himself sort of standing back. So when he does actually notice that Minori has changed again, it takes him aback. And not to say he hasn't seen shape changers before, so to speak, or at least a change, appearance change. But yeah, it's still kind of startling to him. But he does take the moment to muster the courage, and he says, Minori-san, realizing that his visage is actually just, his facial expressions really aren't being seen except for his eyes. And so he's kind of mentally thankful for that at the moment. How would you like for me to represent you? Do you want me to refer to you as Minori in?
Yes, that'll be just fine.
Okay.
use the name, and it's more just appearances go a long way in places like this. I'm sure you could guess. The more
Right.
important you look, the more important you're treated. So that's why he kind of gestures to himself. I'm sure you know.
How aggressive would you like me to be, or would you like to have a signal for me to be more aggressive? Maybe not in attacking, but I will just be, here. But if you give me a signal of some sort, I might make a show to give more, or maybe a back off signal. You know what I mean?
They will likely at least be dismissive at first. They always are. It's their game that they play. So we will need to be persistent and insist that our request is heard. As for signals, consider it part of your training that I will trust you. Follow your instincts. That will go further than any signal that I can provide.
Very good. He bows and kind of just takes back the half step to the side, but alert and paid attention, as if a guard would be. He's kind of practiced this with Yoru, but it steps back up because the appearance of the Scorpion Clan armor is presenting. He feels himself somewhat emboldened by that, and then realizing that also has to sharpen that, and he consciously shapes that back to where he needs to be, centers himself, remembering the moment, and so on. Because interestingly enough, Tadashi was just growing in to be a young man, was just recognized as a samurai prior to the fall of his family. So he is the thrill of the moment is definitely there, and he can feel his hand shaking. And had it not been for the weight of the armor and so on, he's very thankful for that, because it's kind of shrouding it. But he feels confident.
You're muted there.
Thank you. And the two of you, having settled upon your plan of attack, if you will, enter this office. It's a very lavishly appointed affair. Lots and lots of silk, and you even think that there may be some velvet, which is very rare. And there's a woman who does not look like she's at least 100% Tsitian. It looks like she may have some kind of different ancestry, at least in part, judging by the color of her red hair. But she is done up as one would be for any kind of palatial event. She kind of looks up as you've entered and simply holds up a finger, telling you to wait, as she finishes the task of writing something at her seating table. She finishes and rolls the scroll up after blotting it, and then kind of stands and shuffles, almost glides kind of across the floor with small steps towards you. And she kind of gives you a slight bow that would befit what she is assuming your station to be. She says, "Good day to you."
And as Minori enters, the closer that they got, even his affectations and stance would change. But one of the other things that I have, one of the feats that I took is actor. So basically, Minori, even beyond appearances physically, he's basically become in all senses, this noble character, his accent is shifted to like one of higher status, his manner of speaking, the way that he places his hands and stands have all assumed this like altered personality. And he would just nod very slightly. Yes, we come with an urgent message. On behalf of the Scorpion Kuroyama, as his direct assistant, I come here bearing a grave message that must be given to the Emperor. I trust you can manage such an appointment.
I see. The Scorpion Clan Kuroyama has a new assistant, I would have to guess. You are not someone I am familiar with. However, if it is an urgent message for His Imperial Majesty, then it is important that it goes through. I would assume that this message is sensitive.
Of the highest order, yes, and I must insist on its urgency as well.
I see. Well, I will have to see what I can do. However, she kind of looks around Minori at Tadashi. You will not be able to enter the Forbidden City so armed.
And kind of butting in almost before Tadashi can respond, just to be safe, would kind of just give him a knowing look and say, "Of course, we would not dare do such a thing. We will gladly surrender our arms."
They will, of course, be well taken care of, and you can have them back whenever you have departed. Would you like to wait here, or do you have lodgings that you can wait at? It may take some time.
And kind of being like a little bit
Sorry,
pushy.
Suki would just turn and look at Jin like he's probably still eating, like kind of like looking at everyone else like we're probably going to be here a while.
Yeah, Minori would look, being probably a little bit pushy, even. Yes, about how much time would you say? Kind of like trying to force her to give an answer, basically.
That is difficult to tell. It is not up to me. Sometimes, during the winter, there is a lack of guests, as many people who are staying where they are for the winter, but it just depends on what is on His Imperial Majesty's docket for the day. But
Again, and he's kind of like intentionally getting a little snide. Again, I must insist on an exceptional urgency for this matter. Might I remind you?
Tadashi actually kind of flares a little bit, not like a peacock, but he kind of, his arms, the back plates sort of flare a little bit, and he like, not threateningly, but he stands up a little taller and a little more rigid and sort of reinforces by getting a little closer to Minori.
I assure you that I understand this urgency that you carry. However, it is not my place to impose upon the Emperor. I will give your message, the request for a meeting, to those that I answer to, and it must move up the chain from there. And then it must move back down the chain to me, where then I can deliver the answer to you. Bristle as you might, it will not change things. Shall I pass on your request or not?
Please. We'll be waiting.
Very well. And she kind of bows again, a little deeper this time, and turns and gracefully kind of moves away, leaving the room. There's plenty of places to sit here, and if you do intend to do so, they're very comfortable. You brought some kind of tea and light snacking style food, probably some kind of steamed fish, some kind of rice balls. And the waiting goes on for some time, maybe as long as 2 hours or so, before you can hear footsteps in the room adjoining, approaching once again. The door slides open, and she enters. And she kind of bows once again, slightly, and says, "You are in luck. The Emperor is interested in meeting with you. But first you must speak with his advisor. And he will see you tomorrow morning. I recommend that perhaps," and she kind of looks at Tadashi again, "you take this time to prepare yourself. There are many bathhouses here in Tsi-Bon that could aid you in making sure that you are clean and fit to sit before the Emperor."
Tadashi was sitting in a kneeling position, back rigid, and he had taken off his helmet, and it had been set to the side as he was sitting there just looking meditative. And he kind of does a slow bow, not taking his eyes off her the whole time, and then grabs his helmet and just rises without using, just basically just a straight rise from the floor, puts his helmet on and says, "I will be prepared. Thank you for the advice."
And for the arrangements as well. We will make sure we are presentable, of course.
You are very welcome. And is it just the two of you?
There are a couple others as well. 3 more.
I see. I will let them know of the size of your group. Hopefully that does not change anything. Get some rest, and we shall see you tomorrow.
Minori would just give a light bow and then kind of like nod to Tadashi. Like, all right, we've done what we needed to.
Yeah, and Tadashi does a pivotal maneuver and moves in and makes it a point to not leave with his back to the lady as they're leaving. He's trying to be polite, but it might be seen as being cautious. But he's trying to show politeness to her.
And she seems to take it that way. Or if she suspects anything else, it doesn't seem to register. She bows as you both leave, and then as you turn to walk away, we once again find ourselves flying through the streets to yet another location within the Imperial capital, where we see an unusual sight, perhaps, although maybe a little less so here in the capital. We see Yoru, probably the only Casbah in sight, with a halfling in tow, as they head off. Where exactly are you headed, Yoru?
she's going to head into the market district, probably looking for the higher class merchants that might be connected to her guild. As she goes, once in a while, she kind of whispers things to Copper, pointing out things that Copper should know, having to do with merchant things, like the quality of the silk in the shop, and is higher than it was before, so we're getting closer, and just kind of whispering things to her so that Copper can just learn whatever she can learn as they go.
And I imagine she probably soaks it up eagerly. You being her sensei, she knows that there's more to learn from you than simply the maneuvers that you practice in your martial stances. Right. So she very eagerly takes whatever it is that you're willing to teach her.
Imagine they do find a particularly nice shop, and she goes in to speak with the shopkeeper. I'm afraid I don't remember the name of my
I actually
my
have
guild.
A character for this somewhere.
I'm impressed.
It's actually one from White Lotus Black Jade. I can find it. Go ahead with your description.
Okay. Well, yeah, unfortunately, I don't remember the name of the guild.
Oh, it's okay.
Couldn't find it in my notes.
Just make something up.
Yeah, it's just she goes in and says, I'm from the Merchant Guild of the Kasbahs, and we're looking to extend our trade. Do you know of anyone from our guild in this area? And she, of course, does all the polite bowing and forms and things.
So when you enter this shop, you find a huddled old man kind of off to one side in the corner, busying himself with a jar of something on the floor. And as you kind of walk up to him and speak, you can hear that he's humming to himself and doesn't seem to have heard you.
But first, she just bows and waits a little longer to see if he notices her.
Once again, he doesn't seem to reply. However, after a moment, there is another old man who comes out from the back room smoking this pipe. This individual is a little, not disheveled. Well, yeah, a little disheveled. Maybe not entirely there. He walks in, kind of shuffling, and yes, he is stooped to the shoulders. One eye looks like it's pretty much completely squinted shut, and his eyebrows are out of control. And he walks in and kind of stops and kind of turns partially in your direction. Guests? Oh, clients.
Yoru bows towards him. Good sir, I'm looking to see if there is any of the Merchant Guild associated with the Kasbahs and with the Snake Clan.
Snake Clan. Not many Kasbahs here, but the Snake Clan, we've dealt with them before, yes. What would you seek?
I was seeking the guild headquarters to check in and perhaps find some lodging and just get my bearings in the city. I'm new.
You wish to move in on my territory? Is that it?
Perhaps we might have something to trade with one another. And she smiles.
Indeed. You've traveled far, I take it?
Yes, very far.
Let's see. You! And he kind of snaps his fingers in the direction of the stooped old man in the corner. Go and fetch our friend. Tell him he will have company soon. The second old man kind of stands up quickly gets to his feet, also stooped. When he turns around, you see that he appears to be a twin. It can't simply be a twin. His eye is squinted in the same way. His hair and everything it's identical. The other one turns and kind of looks at him and looks at you. I'm always doing everything around here. And he kind of shuffles off out the door. This man standing in the shop just shakes his head. Unappreciative lot.
Yoru watches the pair of them and tries not to look too startled by whatever oddness this is, but her twitching tail probably gives it away.
There's suddenly a crash in the room behind you. And as you spin to kind of look through the doorway, the curtain somewhat parted. You see no less than 3 additional of this man milling about in the back. 2 of them are now yelling at each other over some kind of spilled mess.
Yoru bows at this man again and says, "Good sir, why are there several of you?"
Oh, several of me? What?
Well, they seem like you.
These morons?
Well, they look like you.
They wish. No, they are poor imitations, I'm afraid. But they get the job done most of the time. Now, you say you seek the head of the guild. Hmm?
Yes.
Well, I am the guild master here in Tsi-Bon.
Oh, this time she bows even deeper.
Yes, all of that. Have you eaten?
Oh, we ate earlier, although it's... I think I'm fine for now, thank you.
Very well. Do you have a place to stay?
No, we do not. And we
Good.
do have some comrades as well. I'm sorry, excuse me?
I have no room for you here.
Hmm.
However, I might be able to find room for you, maybe. It's going to cost you.
We have some gold.
No. I'm not interested in gold.
What did you have in mind?
Your aura is very interesting. It has been marked recently. You have the energy of the spirits about you. Not just their energy. You have had conflict with the spirits recently.
Yoru remains silent.
He kind of puffs at the pipe. Where did you come from, child?
Oh. We came all the way from... She kind of laughs almost to herself. My Chucky.
My Chucky. And he kind of strokes this very long white beard. That's Dragon Clan territory, is it not?
Yes, we'd hope to set up new trading opportunities there.
Well, I dare say you've lost your way.
Well, there's been many things that have happened. Nonetheless, I am here now. And I do have some comrades.
I see. How many of you?
There would be a total of 6.
6. Very well.
Including my little friend here.
Well, 5.5 then.
Oh, she's mighty in other ways. She stands up for cover.
I'm sure. Very well. What I want in exchange is information or that dagger you carry.
No, I may not part with the dagger. Perhaps information as we I would need to talk with my fellow travelers.
Mm. Very well. If you bring them here, or come with your answer, I will have your lodgings secured. If you pay me in information.
I will speak with them and let you know when she bows again.
Mm. Very well. Stop doing that. And he kind of starts fussing towards one of the other copies of himself that's fussing with something. And he kind of shuffles away from you.
Come along, Copper. I think it's about time to meet. I think maybe it's still early enough, perhaps, as this didn't take terribly long. Maybe they can find a bathhouse on their way back for dinner. And the two of them have a moment to get good and clean.
You certainly could do so. There are no shortage of them here in the city. And they vary in level of decadence. So
Go into sort of a nicer one, but not the really fancy one.
okay, so upper mid range somewhere.
Yeah.
Sure. So you have, at least an hour to clean yourself. This is kind of a hot spring where they bring in flowers and oils and things to put into the water. And it's a very nice experience. It's probably been a little while since you've had one, at least, since you've been on the road. And
then, of course, there's always the brushing and drying and brushing and, and rearranging of fur.
Yeah,
Cosmo's a little too civilized to lick her fur, but she definitely wants to brush it.
Yeah, some of the other bathers are probably not super keen whenever Yoru gets out of the water, because there's probably quite a bit of fur that is left behind.
A while.
But they, someone will come through and very quickly skim the water and clean it. So after the six of you finish your various tasks, and you're able to meet back up at the disgruntled noodle house, what do you wish to discuss? How does this meeting go?
Minori would look to the others and say, well, it seems that our luck has continued. We have a meeting tomorrow morning with the Emperor's advisor, and assuming that goes well enough, with the Emperor himself, we've been granted an appointment. We'll need to look as presentable as we can, of course, so make sure it would kind of look over, especially towards Jin, and then also, to a lesser extent, Suki, that we look our best. This will be important.
Yes, I believe you're right. We had a... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say Jin would just kind of do one of those, sniff tests, kind of.
At that, Yoru will wrinkle her nose and say, Jin, you need a bathhouse. You smell like old fish.
Like greasy old fish.
Yes.
The oil from everything you eat is just sweating out of your pores.
Possibly 2-day-old greasy fish, but no, don't take that too hard. You fight very well.
Like
He's trying to find words.
Like the fish you had was only 1 day old.
But that was 2 days ago.
And it was greasy.
As he kind of looks over, kind of cracks a smile at him, and punches him in the shoulder. It's all in good banter.
This will cost Suki many coin. But I will do as you ask.
You always cost me coin.
It is the cost of friendship.
He's like the kid you never wanted.
He just kind of shakes his head. I need to find new friends. He walks like starts to like pace off at least a little bit.
Fear not,
I trust
my dear friend. Oh, go ahead.
I trust the rest of your meetings were suitably productive. Kind of like looks over, like, please tell me you guys got something done.
I made a very interesting contact. The head of the Merchants Guild here in the city. He's an old man. He seems to have several copies of himself working for him. It's very odd. And he would give us lodging for the night, but he wants information. I didn't give him any. I'm not sure exactly what would be good or not. I told him I needed to speak with my comrades before we could make any sort of accommodation at all.
Yeah, Minori would kind of raise an eyebrow as you describe this person.
It's a very old man with a very high quality shop, but with like I say, these odd men that look just like him, but don't seem to be as smart or as energetic or as, you know.
Well, if it's information he's after, we'll have to be careful with what kind of deal we strike. As I mentioned before, we should treat information as if it's a premium right now.
Yes. Guild contacts are important, though. The guild's
Will not
wield
hurt to
power
hear him
also.
out.
Yes. He said he would take my dagger, but I'm not giving up my dagger for I'd sleep in the street. That's my family's. So,
So we have our meeting. We have lodging. And Jin has an empty stomach. Oh, and some information.
Yes, I was able to make contact with Sifu Silken Sky. She will inform the other masters of Wudang Mountain. They will join the Empire in the fight against the barbarians. Their aid and their wisdom will be greatly appreciated in the days to come. Until then, we must remain vigilant in our task.
Any ally now is a welcome one. We will need every man and woman.
I'm assuming that we're meeting at the noodle house and eating as we talk.
Yes. Again,
And
the
probably
disgruntled.
talking fairly quietly, too, so that not a lot of other people would be picking up on it.
Sure. And it's not a very large place. Your party probably fills it most of the way, honestly. The disgruntled cook is busy making bowl after bowl of food yet again, happily taking the coin, but bemoaning how hard he's having to work to keep up with Jen. So once you have filled your bellies once again, is the idea then to return to the merchant leader, the crazy old guy?
That's what I was thinking, if the others are with it.
Yep, that was the plan for me too.
Okay. So after an hour or so, you head back towards the shop. And it started to become night outside. And you enter. I would imagine Yoru probably enters first. And at first, she doesn't see anyone again. And then one of these individuals kind of pokes his head up from behind a row of shelves in the back and kind of cocks an eyebrow up. Oh, guests. No, I think clients. Yes?
Perhaps guests or clients. Maybe it's the same.
Oh, I see. Wily with words. Is there something I can do for you? There's an awful lot of you.
If we were to perhaps make a deal for lodging?
Deal for lodgings, it's not something that I deal with. Oh, you must have spoken to the other of my associates. Hold on a moment. Hey! Hey, knucklehead! He kind of wanders off again. You hear more shouting in the back. And
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Yora looks at the others and she says, there's several of them.
And then to all of you, apparently, he returns. Kind of looks at the group of you and kind of nods his head, and then looks to Yoru and just, you have returned. Welcome back. Have you made a decision?
Could I do an insight roll maybe to see whether he is like honestly wanting to help us? You know, is this guy shady? What's the deal there?
Sure.
Alrighty. Oh, great. That's not exactly going to be useful with a total of 5, is it?
With 5, no. Not a whole lot. This guy's just strange. It's really hard to get much of a reading off of him at all because he just doesn't seem like he's 100% there to start with.
Yeah, none of them do.
Minori is going to look at him and say, before we make any certain terms, we must know what sort of information it is that you seek before we will answer that we'll provide it.
So you have various levels of information to give. Is this what you're saying? Very well. If you wish to mete out your information, I will compensate you with lodgings of an equal standing. I will let you determine what kind of information it is that you give me. You see, I trade in many things. And depending upon the kind of information that you have exchanged, will depend on the kind of pillow you have to lay your head upon. How's that for a deal?
And tell me, if you will, what sort of information do you value?
Oh, most kinds, honestly, but I think your lot carry more information, more interesting information, no less, than the average person. This one, and he kind of points to Yoru, has a mark upon her. Several of you, in fact, seem to have been marked by the spirits in conflict. Yes, the lot of you are very interesting indeed.
Yoru speaks up. And what would you do with this information?
Oh, I am a merchant. I trade. Information can be traded.
But some information needs to be sensitive and not to be just traded with anyone.
Yes, this is true. I am sometimes choosy with whom I do business with. I think that it's safe to say that if this information is dangerous to our empire, that it would be kept very safe indeed.
Yaro kind of looks towards her friends to see if they have any input, particularly to Minori.
Yeah, Minori would kind of eye this strange man up and down, kind of trying to get a handle on him. And he would kind of lean in towards Yoru to whisper and say, anything but why we're here. Spirits, anything else you're welcome to speak of, but not our task at hand.
Yaro gives a very slight nod and flick of her tail to indicate that she's heard him.
Another one of these old men enters through the front door of the shop carrying a bundle. And he says, "Oh, guests. Oh, no. Perhaps clients." And the other one that you've been speaking with is, "Shut up. Go away." And he kind of shoos him from the room quickly. Well, what's it to be? The stables? Or the
Are you
guild house?
interested, perhaps, in some of our experiences with the spirits?
Stories do not necessarily fetch a good price. But if you learned something from these spirits, something that someone would find useful, then perhaps.
She's going to, she would like to try to persuade him into giving them a pretty decent place to sleep in exchange for the information about some of their meetings with the spirits.
Okay. Go ahead and roll your persuasion.
That comes to a total of 18. Let me double check. I gotta make sure I got this right. No, I'm sorry. It comes to more than that. 21.
Okay.
I've got all this expertise stuff that's not on the standard character sheet. I have to keep straight.
Mm-hmm. So he kind of thinks on it for a moment. And he said, "Once more, I will hear your information that you have to offer, and then I will decide the kind of lodgings that are worth it. I leave it to you."
Well, there's one thing that we met with an enraged water spirit. What town was that in?
Kokishu.
In Tokishu.
And did it devour you?
Obviously. Yeah. No, we spoke with it.
You spoke with a river spirit while it was enraged.
Yes, I did.
And yet you survived. Interesting.
It was enraged by some things that were not as they seemed. And when I spoke the truth to it, it saw that the reality of its situation and calmed down.
Things are not as they seem. What do you mean, girl?
Oh. She looks at her friends like, okay, someone. She's obviously gave away a little bit more than she meant to there.
Enraged by the blood of betrayal, a stain against any man's honor.
Yes.
A royal architect gone rogue, perhaps.
I
Very
Met a
nice.
grisly fate.
Do you refer to the recent loss of the Mantis clan's royal architect, perhaps? I believe that was also in Tokishu.
I wouldn't consider it a loss, more of a benefit to the Mantis clan at this point.
Ha! Right you are.
Yes, a spirit that typically protects was enraged and not protecting.
Hmm.
Yes, Yoru spoke it down, spoke very poetically as she does, and she talked the creature down.
Did you use enchantment magic?
No, not enchantment magic. Just the truth, spoken with care and consideration for the creature and for the people.
Kindness. Kindness turned a raging river spirit back to benevolence. Oh, very well. Is there anything else that you're willing to put on the table?
She looks at her comrades. Have you anything to add?
We have touched the spirit world several times with the water spirits. My god and a friend in the teleporting tea house. All these are merely accidental.
His entire demeanor kind of changes for a second. Did you say teleporting tea house?
Yeah, there could be more to the story. It all depends on whether or not you happen to know the person in which I speak of. You happen to know of man Yao Pin.
I know of Zhao Pin.
Well, we're acquainted.
Oh.
We spent some time with him and several others in a very beautiful tea house.
You met the cook.
But Jin met the cook.
His squinted eye kind of twitches a little. The cook and I are also somewhat familiar with one another. Where is Zhao Pin now?
Most likely still at the tea house. We left there long ago.
Where was it that you found this tea house?
And he kind of looks around, like, trying to clearly remember the event. I almost believe it might have found us. I remember we were all mighty cold, I believe, and there was this tea house with an old man that I happen to know quite well. And then when we awoke the next morning, we were in a ramshackled, run-down little apartment in the lower end of it was the town.
New
Yeah, it was
Chile.
Chile. New Chile. Yeah.
In New Chile. What building? Describe it to me.
It was no different from any of the other rundown shacks in the lower section. I couldn't even find it again if I wanted to.
You! He kind of snaps his fingers, and one of the other comes from the back. Go to New Chile. Atarashi, it was called before. Travel by incense. Be careful. Find what location he's talking about. Very well. I will accept this information you have given me. And tonight, you will sleep well. Your friend will be fed. His stomach hasn't stopped making noise since he's entered.
His stomach never stops making noise. Trust me, I've lived with him for years.
At least his mouth is generally quiet.
Very well. He kind of summons yet another one of these copies. Show them to the guild house. They stay for free. Good luck in your endeavors, and should you run into the spirit world again, may I suggest you exercise more caution. And with that, you are led away from the shop to not opulent, but very well appointed inn, a place for you to stay. The beds are very comfortable and dry. The place is clean. There is hot tea, sake, if you wish it. And when mealtime is around, there is certainly plenty of food to eat. And you are left to your own devices for the evening in order to get cleaned and rested.
Jen,
Oh, go ahead.
Jen leans close to Suki, kind of keeping a hushed tone. I am glad I did not have to offer this secret. And he just kind of opens his sash, and there's a scroll tube. It's the recipe for Master Fu Lang's dumplings. Ancient Wuding secret.
It's only valuable to you.
Oh no. No, my friend. I imagine this would rival the cook himself.
He probably got it from the cook.
We must ask him next we meet.
Well, they were good dumplings.
True enough.
They were very good dumplings. Jin, could you perhaps help us to cleanse our spirits? And then we also need a bathhouse to cleanse some people's bodies.
As she's already smelling pristine.
Oh yeah, she's all perfumed up and fluffed out and everything.
Yes, I would imagine that when the tea arrives, Jin would actually perform a tea ceremony that is meant to cleanse the mind and the spirit and even use some herbal incense to relax the body and clear the mind.
Absolutely. And doing so, as well as procuring baths for those of you that wished to do so, you definitely feel rejuvenated. You feel cleansed and as ready as you can be to go before the Emperor. And this is where we're going to take our break. Yes, it will count as a long rest. So 5 to 10 minutes, we will be right back, and we'll get to the second half of this session. Thank you, everybody who is tuned in this evening thus far. Thank you very much if you are tuning in at a later date. Yeah, we'll be right back. I have returned. Hello, everybody out there in La La Land, or YouTube Land, wherever it is you find yourselves. Hopefully, your Monday did not suck anywhere near as bad as mine did.
Into every life, a little rain must fall, right?
I live in Houston. Rain falls all the fucking time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you guys get more than we do, but we get a fair bit here in Tucson too.
Really? That surprises me.
Yeah, and in the monsoon seasons, really.
You have a monsoon season?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Arizona
Wow.
does have a monsoon season.
That's
the
crazy.
Sonoran Desert. Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, we're still like we don't have to conserve water, but they're always trying to say don't do too much. Because they have to pipe the water across the state from the Colorado.
Huh. That's wild. I thought monsoon was just a different word for a hurricane. Or it was a hurricane that spun the opposite direction or something. Maybe this is cyclone. I don't know.
No, it's nowhere near that level. Basically, just storm season.
Mm.
You know, we get some thunderstorms and a little bit of water.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I mean, there's times where it rains like a mofo, but and the washes actually run, but you know.
I don't mind the rain, honestly. Like, to me, everything feels cleaner after the rain. So I don't mind it too much. Now, if you're stuck out in it, it kind of sucks. So when you're camping or traveling on the road, then it's not as pleasant. But we get.
I don't mind rain. We get about 12 inches of it a year here.
Yeah, I was gonna say you live in a pretty rainy part of the country too.
No. I live in Eastern Washington. It's a whole nother world. I live in a desert.
Oh wow. There's a
12 inches of precip is nothing.
There's
What
a desert
happens?
in Washington?
What happens is that all the water on the coast hits the mountains and dumps on Seattle.
Mm.
And then there's a cloud shadow. I'm right in the middle of that where we get no water, and it's 110 or 15 in the summer and
Holy hell.
And cold in the winter, and it's windy and dry and rather unpleasant.
Well, there you go. You learn something new every day.
There's a huge variety of terrain in Washington State.
Texas is pretty similar. Where I am here, it's very swampy. Well, the ground isn't swampy, but it was a swamp at some point, and the atmosphere is very much still a bayou. It's hot and humid and rains a lot, lots of mosquitoes. But you go about 2 hours north, and it's hilly and full of evergreen trees. And
2 hours from here, and you're up in the mountains.
Yeah. Well, we don't have a lot of mountains.
4 hours from here, you're on the coast.
Yeah, I remember back in 2003, I flew into Dallas and drove out to Longview for work, and it's a pretty drive, actually. I mean, I've never driven West Texas. I've heard it's horrible, but in comparison, driving from Dallas to Longview wasn't bad, and it was neat because you see, like you were describing, these bayou homes that look like what I always imagined from Louisiana, these white buildings like with the pillars in front and stuff. They're all dilapidated and stuff. I'm sure they had a nicer district, but some of the areas had these houses, but it was neat. It was definitely an experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of pretty places in Texas, but most of it is the kind of stuff you're talking about, buildings and stuff. We don't have now in West Texas and in the hill country, kind of in the center of the state. There's a lot of pretty geography there, but it's not like Colorado or any place like that. It's very dry, very arid.
Yeah, I prefer the dry heat.
Oh yeah.
I invite you all to New England, where wait like 5 minutes, and the entire weather system has changed. And like, no joke, I remember in the middle of July, I remember this distinctly because we had a heat wave, and it had been like 100-something degrees with 100% humidity for like a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it started downpouring, and people were like out in the complex that I live. People were out in the streets, like in their underwear, just like, yes, praise the rain, as it came down. And then all of a sudden, it literally turned to sleet, snowed, back to sleet, back to rain, and then the sun was out, and it was 95 degrees again with 100% humidity. And this all happened within like an hour and a half time span. Yeah. In the middle of July.
Wow.
That reminds me of going to school in the far eastern part rather than more central, really. Far eastern Washington at Washington State University. It was through the entire spring into June. It snowed every single day. And B, by mid-afternoon, people were out in their bikinis because it was 80 or 90 degrees.
Yeah, I'm sure
And everything in
Washington
between.
State is pretty familiar, like is comparable to New England because we're about in that same range. We have I go 2 hours north and you got mountains and hillbilly country. You go 2 hours east, I'm in the ocean. You go 2 hours west, you're in New York State. You know, the kind of deal, or
Right.
you're getting to New York State, and then you go 2 hours south and you're starting to get into like the Amish.
We don't have the Amish. We don't have that kind of land here either. If you go east from here, you end up in northern Idaho, which is mountains. You don't have to go very far. You're in the Rockies.
Yeah, we have the White Mountains.
This all goes to mountains. Hey, you
Just
don't have
about.
mountains. You don't know mountains from your.
Just about 2 hours in any direction from Houston except south, and you're in Texas still. Pretty much in the middle of nowhere. If you go south, then you're in the Gulf of Mexico.
So if you go kind of north from here and a little east, you end up in Spokane. Spokane's really pretty pleasant. It has a lot more water than we do, and a milder climate. They're like at least 1 and maybe 2 growing zones, more temperate, pleasanter.
Yeah,
Hey, I love New England. I love having all the seasons. I want the snow.
Spokane has seasons for sure. Our winter's a little dry and a little windy, but sometimes it snows.
As demonstrated by the comment that my girlfriend just made, every girlfriend I have ever dated hates the snow and all want to move south. And I'm like, I love the snow. And I don't ski or do any winter sports or anything like that, but I just love the snow.
I don't think I'd want to leave it completely.
Okay. Alan should probably be back here in just a minute.
Yeah, he said that he had to do something with his dog, so.
Yeah, I'm sure he's just letting them out. Cool. So we will go ahead and get this ranked back up here. So you have spent the evening in relaxation, revelry, what have you, making yourselves ready for the coming day. Now, meeting the Emperor is a huge, huge deal. And this is something that 95% of the people that you have ever met in your life would never, ever have the chance to do. You getting to do so is a huge honor, and is something that will likely be attached to your name and your story ever forward from this moment. You have been bathed, unless anybody just outright refused. It was heavily recommended that you do so. You are not really considered fit to step foot in the room with the Emperor unless you are cleaned. Likewise, you are reminded that there is not to be any weaponry taken beyond the palace walls into the Forbidden City. And you are also told, or you will be told as you're arriving, that when you step into the walls of the Forbidden City, that you are not supposed to make a noise. You're not to speak. You are not to call out. They don't really want you to even sneeze, anything, until you are within the actual palace itself. So you are met once again by the woman who met with Minori and Tadashi before. And Dave said you had something that you wanted to take care of?
Yeah. Nintai, prior to going to bed, he had meditated deeply upon the experience that was coming before him, because he remembered a conversation with his father in years past. His father was going to meet the Emperor, and he described the importance of the experience and to think deeply and prepare yourself for it. And unfortunately, his father died before he ever really got to give him any great deal on that. So he lights some incense in his sleeping quarter, his small sleeping area, and meditates deeply on the moment and on this conversation with his father. And he seems to have the briefest of moments of his father's spirit. And he imparts guidance on how to behave and what to do. And it's as if when the experience leaves, though, he is, for several moments afterwards, he is stuck in that for a moment, reveling in the experience of what just happened. And as he raises his eyes, he thinks to himself that he knows that his father is with him. And he sleeps very well that night. And in the morning when he wakes up, he gets up early and ritualistically cleans his armor and dons each piece reverently and takes each piece of his armor, or his weapons rather, and peace bonds them, or what the equivalent would be, because he knows what is coming. And while he stows them as he would normally, they're peace bonded, so that when he gets to the moment, he will bring them up and present them as the extra effort given to show that respect for the emperor. So, yeah, he is walking somewhat quietly the next morning. He's usually quiet, but more quiet than normal.
No, Yoru's kit does include some fine silken garments for meeting with officials and their, in her trade negotiations and things. So she certainly gets out her very, very best garments and gives them an extra pass through the prestidigitation cleaner to make sure there's no spots or wrinkles or anything. Just.
I'm sure Yuri would have helped us all out in being clean with her magic.
Yes, absolutely. Make sure all your clothing are up to par. And there's not a spot or wrinkle or anything out of place. We've been through some pretty hard travel. She's pretty nervous, really.
Hopefully, the men's spell is one that you know, or can at least swap out while we're you're patching stuff up.
She can prestidigitate, but she doesn't mend.
I'm sure there are people, in the guild house who either can do it or know where to have that kind of thing done. I'm sure it has all been attended to before you set out the next day.
Like I said, Euro being nervous keeps brushing herself with her little brush, putting it back in her sleeve, and brushing herself again.
I'm sure the cleaners cost money, so I'll just add this on to Chin's bill. I got a running tally going.
Chin's going to owe you his life there, Suki. It seems unlikely you'll ever get paid.
Looking at probably about 40 gold right now, at least. I'm never going to see that money.
So as you approach the office where Minori and Tadashi are able to lead you, telling you where they had met this individual the day before. You're able to enter the office once again, and she is seated at the table once more, writing something down. And she looks up as you enter, at first recognizing Minori and Tadashi, and then seeing the rest of you enter behind. Her eyebrow kind of raises a bit, and she says, "Well, I did not expect such a diverse group, but there's joy in diversity, for sure. You all look as if you have prepared to meet with the Emperor. That's very, very good. Are you all ready to stand before His Imperial Majesty?"
Minori will just give like a slow, determined nod.
Very well. I will send for the advisor, and he should be here shortly. Her gaze kind of lingers on Yoru for a moment, and then she goes back to what she was doing at the desk. She finishes writing a separate piece of paper that she had pulled over whenever you had walked in, scribbles something down, and then stands and takes it from the room. Once again, you're left to wait for maybe half an hour, 45 minutes or so. And she eventually does return. And she says, "He will see you now. You are to accompany me across the courtyard. And you need to be silent as you do so. The Forbidden City is not a place to disturb the peace. Your weapons will be left here." And she kind of motions to a side room that looks very well fortified. The walls seem to be entirely made out of very thick wood, and the door is heavy and has iron bindings on it. She approaches it and pulls a key from inside of one of her deep sleeves, produces it, unlocks the door, and swings it open with a loud kind of creaking. And there are racks upon racks in this room, most of which are completely and totally empty. If you would please, leave your weapons, all of them, if you would, here, please. She kind of eyes the scorpions for just a moment longer.
Yeah, Jin slings his sword and racks it.
Yeah, and Tadashi reverently draws each one of his weapons, his katana, his wakizashi, his longbow, his naginata, his tetsubo, all in turn, as he slowly puts them on the counter. This arsenal that he carries with him.
Yeah, from nearby, she probably kind of watches this with a slight amount of surprise.
Yeah, Minori would go about taking his dagger, laying it down, and then pulling shurikens from probably about 7 or 8 different places on his body. And then kind of like look back towards the person and kind of just like roll his eyes slightly and nod, and then pull another couple out and lay them on the counter. And kind of open his arms like, "There you go, Scorpion, and I got nothing."
Yoru quietly pulls out her shan, lays it on the table, her regular dagger, her dart gun and a little quiver of darts. And then last, she very reverently lays the black jade dagger down, just finding it very difficult to leave that behind.
Noticing this, the attendant looks to you, Yoru, and says, I will take good care of it. You have my word.
Please do. It is a family treasure.
I understand. Did everybody leave their weapons? Is there anyone who is attempting to sneak a weapon in?
No. Even Suki would end up putting all of it up there.
Okay.
Although Yoru does keep her claws sheathed and doesn't make an issue, an issue out of having them, because there's not much she can do about that.
She doesn't make an issue out of it either. So once all of the weapons are placed into this closet, she locks it back, stows the key away deep within one of these large sleeves, and then turns to you and says, this way. And she once again glides from the room, this time taking you along with her. You, within moments, are in a place that you have only heard of before. This is the Forbidden City. And it's immaculate. It is incredibly clean. Nothing seems out of place. Everything is appointed, freshly painted, decorated with the red and gold colors of the Phoenix clan. And the Mons of the Phoenix clan are on full display, as they are in most other places of the city. But here there's a banner every 5 feet. And every single one of them is identical in color, size, shape, and you are led through this display of opulence. And there's not a sound except for the snapping of these banners in unison, a chorus of them. As you make your way silently across this very large courtyard towards the palace. And as you mount the front steps of the palace, you pass 2 man-sized statues of Phoenix with their wings stretched upwards above their heads, made of solid gold, gleaming in the morning sunlight. You mount the steps towards the front doors as the doors themselves are opened by guards wielding very fancy-looking naginata. Their armor, again, red and gold, lacquered, and perfect in every way. They open the doors and echo into the interior of the palace, allowing you entrance, shutting the doors behind you. And once inside, the attendant turns to you and says, in a very hushed tone, "This is where I leave you. I will probably see you again whenever you leave the palace. I don't think I need to stress the importance of honor here in the palace. Good luck to you." And she kind of bows and turns and walks away. You are not there long mere moments before another individual approaches, almost seemingly out of nowhere. And some of you might be somewhat shocked when you see another Casbah approach, wearing the garb of a monk, someone who has studied at a monastery. He approaches and he does actually pause for a moment and looks at Yoru with a little bit of surprise. And then catches himself and bows to the lot of you. And he says, I am Karaz. Welcome to the palace. I've been informed that you have business of an urgent nature that you wish to discuss.
It is a great honor to be here and to be welcomed. And yes, you are correct. You have urgent news for the Empire.
The two of you are Scorpion Clan, but there's markings of crane and snake, mantis even. It must be dire if the group of you are working together.
Our business transcends clan lines. It is of serious import.
I see. Well, come this way. And he kind of turns and leads you off towards kind of a side chamber, a place to sit and discuss, away from public ears. It's very much kind of a similar room to a lot that you have been in. A lot of cushions on the floor for you to sit, low-slung table in the middle for food to be served at, though right now it is empty, maybe much to Jen's chagrin. But this is far more well-appointed than anything that you have been in before. There's hardly anywhere that you can look where you don't see gold somewhere, as well as vibrantly dyed red silk, and probably even gemstones and things in several places, mother of pearl. So he waits for you to enter the room, shuts the door, and then he lowers himself kind of into a seated position at the head of the table and kind of rolls his shoulders back and looks to all of you. Well, I should hear what it is that you have to say. Don't everyone speak at once.
While everyone else may be sitting, Nintai has bowed politely, but he's standing, not rudely. He's just standing, waiting for them to speak, unless they're not going to.
Yoru kind of gathers up her courage. And even though she's sitting, she bends over towards Karaz. She's like, we have had a long and difficult journey, and we have news that is very, very grave. We started in Maituki, and while we were there, it was overrun by barbarians from were they from the north? Do I have that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Yes. From the north. And they were way more powerful than they ought to be, than one would expect. And we went to bring news. Well, first to the Mantis clan, because they were overrunning the Mantis clan, but we could not move quickly enough. And we could not gather enough support. And the royal architect of the Mantis clan did not protect his people well and betrayed us. He was to take the news to the emperor, and he failed. And we traveled across the land, seeking allies against this horde which is coming behind us and getting bigger and more dangerous as it goes and overrunning everything. We wanted to be sure that the emperor knew and that he could bring his whole empire against this and save his people. And she goes on and shares details, and she figures this is the time to unload it on someone, everything that we know. And at times turning to her friends to fill in any details that she's missed. Or not, it's okay.
So far, he is simply nodded along, kind of stroking one side of his whiskers with his paw, just listening.
She would also share the various adventures they'd had with spirits and with bizarre means of travel through the traveling tea house and waking up, in unfamiliar cities and traveling by incense and traveling by foot and I think we might have traveled by boat at some point. I don't know. And just explaining that there's some enormous spiritual disturbance as well as this huge physical horde coming in, and in that horde there are fiends and there are all these various creatures of evil that are not the normal races of this land.
He seems to listen to it all with an equal amount of calm. Nothing that you've said really seems to have shaken him or affected him on the surface very much.
Okay.
He simply just kind of continues to nod along as you speak.
She explains also how they got Minori and the Scorpion Clan's involvement in standing against this. Oh, yes. And she speaks of the proof. Was Minori carrying proof? Yeah, he had papers. So she wants Minori to speak also, and hands that over to him.
He would kind of just slowly nod and say, "Yes, I can verify everything that this person has spoken. I come on behalf directly from Kuroyama, Tarimoi Fuirana, the Scorpion Clan. Is his personal emissary on this matter." And he would pull out, I believe that we had obtained some sort of writ from him directly to show his support and mine. And he would kind of show and demonstrate that he is in fact who he's saying that he is.
There is an attendant in the room who, when bade to do so, comes over and retrieves the writ from you and delivers it to Kuraz, who promptly opens it and reads over it quickly. Again, nodding in affirmation. I see. He kind of exhales and rolls the scroll, the writ, and sets it on the table in front of him. Well, this is a lot of disturbing news. The Northmen occasionally raid, but the Dragon Clan is usually sufficient at stopping them. If they've made it as far as Mantis Clan, then I imagine dragon is broken.
That's the unfortunate part. The river of life is turbulent with the lost souls, for, as Yoru mentioned, the river was filled with the bodies of the Dragon Clan. Our companion that was with us, grief-stricken by what had happened to his clan, went back to meet with his clan to see what he could do. We're in turbulent times. Our world is threatened.
With all due respect, this is no raid that we face. It is an all-out invasion. War. Nothing less.
And I believe they intend to eradicate us if anything that we have seen thus far has shown proof. And they're moving with not just barbarians, but as stated, we were attacked with demonic. They're raising the souls of and sending them against us as well.
This battle is going to take place on many fields, not just this one, on our physical plane. And we already have the backing of at least one spirit. More would not hurt as well.
I see. You sound as though you have been through much to get this information into the palace. This is good. It is good that news has finally reached His Imperial Majesty's court. I am loath to disturb his meditation, but I think it may be necessary. What you have told me is very disturbing. The Northmen making an all-out invasion in the middle of winter is strange, troubling. There must be something driving them. Something more than a mere desire for wealth and killing. Very well. I will let you speak with the Emperor. I must ask that when you address him, you do so properly. You should refer to him as the Son of Heaven, which is his given title. Failing that, you may call him your Imperial Majesty. Thank you for bringing this information to us. I am certain that what will follow will be trying for the Empire at large. But in the end, we may have you to thank for whatever response we're able to give. With that, he starts to stand up. The attendant will open the door on the side of the room, and this individual, Karaz, will lead you through an enormous property. The palace it's just absurdly large. The number of floors and wings and things that you travel through in order to arrive in a hallway outside of a room. There is an attendant who lowers herself to her knees just outside of the door, and Karaz bows to her as he approaches, and he says, I know it is not proper to disturb his meditations, but this group of people, they have news that must reach his ears immediately. And she nods, bows to the floor, and will slide the door open and scoot inside, shutting it behind her. And he kind of, Karaz turns to you and says, "We will wait here until we are allowed to enter." You can hear some movement on the other side of the room, on the other side of the wall, and the speaking of lowered voices. And it's a moment, probably 3 or 4 minutes, before the attendant returns to the door and slides it open once again from the inside, wider this time, allowing you to enter. When you enter the room, you can feel the cold, as this room appears to be open to the outside. There is an arrangement of kneeling cushions, 6 of them, that you can tell are for you. And they face, pardon me, they face a screen that is decorated in the motifs of the Phoenix Clan that you can see through, but only partially. More shapes and shadows, really, than much else. And as you enter the room and find a place to sit yourself upon the floor, you can see the light through a large round door, an opening that leads out into a snowy courtyard, a very gorgeous looking garden. The snow seems to have begun falling a little heavier since you arrived at the palace first. There is an individual kneeling in front of this opening, staring out at it. From here, you can see that his head is shaven completely bald, and he sits there motionless. After a moment, when you're all seated, the attendant bows once again, as well as does Karaz, and the attendant leaves the room, and Karaz retires to a corner where he quietly sits himself upon the floor. And then you are left in silence, seemingly waiting for someone or something to break the silence.
Tadashi moves forward and kneels down the lowest bow he can muster. And as he raises his head, he says, "Son of Heaven, thank you." And then he moves over and kneels onto one of the pillows.
And seeing Tadashi go forward, and she also goes. Yora also goes and kneels on a pillow and quietly says, "Son of Heaven," and bows her forehead to the floor. Are we in a position he would even see us though?
No.
At this point, okay.
This screen pretty much divides the room in half, and he is on the other side of it from you. So you can really only kind of see his form. And he has his back to you, so you know for a fact that he can't see you.
Right. Well, she's
But-
definitely going to bow anyway. I mean,
Yeah, you would know that even if he can't see you, that it's still expected.
mhm. Well, and the other Cosbot, whose name I can't even read my handwriting.
Raz.
Conceus, Karaz, that's it. Oh, that's what that is. My handwriting's so bad I can't even read it the second time I wrote it. But yes. Should we bow 3 times at this point? If I can't be wrong.
To the best of my knowledge, normally it would be you would bow on your knees. In this, we would probably all do this as a group. It would be like one of the first things you do. You go in, you keep low, bow, head to the floor 3 times,
Okay.
and then you probably can't even look directly in his general direction. Probably get beheaded.
Okay, so she peers at him out the corner of her eye, barely. And tries to keep her tail from twitching too much, or her ears from laying back on her head.
After Suki would, son of heaven, we have come a long way, fought many enemies, nearly died several times to get this message and this information through a long train to you with the Scorpion Clan leader's blessing, with his own envoys as escort to bring this message here as quickly as possible. Barbarians are attacking, not raiding. This is a full onslaught that is taking more than just this plane of our world to battle on. Spirits are involved. The spirit world is involved. We have had contact with some of our allies at Wudang Mountain. Myself and my comrade here are from there. They are already assembling, hopefully, to join whatever forces that we can manage to get together, as well as several other clans, and at least one spirit animal will help. This is something that needs urgent attention, as the Dragon and Mantis clans may have already fallen into complete disarray and may never recover.
At this last mention, you notice an almost imperceptible movement as you see his head lower for a moment, bending forward. His shoulders slump a little. You can tell that this news has disturbed him. He, after a long moment, finally speaks. After a long pause in silence. This place is heaven. It was given to us by the gods for our benevolence, kindness, and praise. We are the stewards of this place, the keepers of heaven. War has come to heaven. We must stand stewards no more. We must arm ourselves and become the warriors of heaven. Yesterday, I found this in my garden. And he motions, and out of nowhere, another attendant comes forward with a small box and hands it to him. He receives it and then gets onto his knees and stands. Take this away. Remove the screen. And the attendant, as well as Karaz, kind of pause, and their body language very much says that they're going to object. And Karaz even says, "Your Imperial Majesty," and he just puts a hand up. "This is no time for such strict formalities. Please do as I ask." And attendants come and fold the screen up. And as they do so, you get your first full look at the Emperor. And as he turns, you can see his face is lined with worry and concern. The box that he has is held out in front of him. He opens it for you to see. And inside, you see several pieces of ash. Black flakes of almost nothing, but unmistakably ash. The war of the Black Snows is upon us. I have feared this day for some time. I was not certain it would come. I hoped it would not. So, you have come all this way to tell me that heaven is burning. What do you ask in exchange?
Your bows your head to the floor. Only that we serve and help to stand. That's the important thing now.
Your Imperial Majesty, we all wish to stand. But I believe it is time to rally the clans, unite to protect heaven.
Yes, of course. He turns to one of the attendants. He says, "Dispatch word to the Kuroyamas immediately. Travel by incense, and do so fast. They are to meet as soon as possible." Where? Where were the barbarians the last you saw them?
What was the last city they overtook?
They were on the road from Chilang to Tokishu, but also you know that they were marching on the Scorpion Clan capital of Idonawa.
Okay. Well, the invasion appears to have largely begun through my Chucky in the past that they're in. they have been flooding outward from there and sharing the details of the cities. I believe the Dragon Clan has already suffered great losses, and the Scorpion Clan is in great danger.
The barbarians have already made it into Scorpion Clan lands, then.
They are threatening. We do not know if they've actually reached yet.
We've
They
been
have
watching.
already raised the new Mantis clan capital, overtaken it. We're last seen heading towards Tokishu and into Scorpion.
What of Idonawa? Does it still stand?
When we left, it stood, but they marched for it.
Your Kuroyama, no doubt, will be making his stand there, behind its fortified walls.
He may be able to delay them, but he will need help.
Yes. Yes, he will. I wonder. He kind of motions, and yet another attendant approaches, and he says, "Bring the Jakoshin. The one that they call Golden Death." This individual bows and leaves the room quickly.
At that, Yoru has to suppress a hiss. Her ears go back, just hearing the Jakoshin, and her tail twitches. There's much involved, and not just barbarians. To call them barbarians is almost to underestimate what's going on there. There are spirits, perhaps even gods, involved in this. Powers of the supernatural.
It would explain how I came to understand that it was a possibility. I am not strongly connected with the spiritual world, as some may believe. At least not as strong as some of my advisors would hope. And he kind of shoots a look at Karaz. But there are times when the spirits speak to me. I wonder, you say you wish to fight this war.
Yes.
You are free
Yes,
to
you're
return
free.
home if you so wish it. I do not ask this of you.
I believe this needs to be fought. If it's not fought, the whole world will be turned upside down. There's no point in going home there's no point in going home if this is not dealt with.
I see. Very well. If you intend to fight in this war, then I suggest you come with me. And he turns and begins to move very quickly from the room.
I assume he means all of us?
Tadashi doesn't even wait. He just rises and begins following.
Yes.
Nori will
Yes.
do the same, just immediately, standing and matching his pace.
Yoru will. Come along, Copper. No. Very quietly.
So he actually leads you out through that circular doorway, out into the courtyard and the snow. Very quickly, he kind of leads you across where you walk over a small bridge over a pond that is entirely frozen over, into a small building that kind of stands on its own. And on a dais, kind of surrounded by these kind of marble-looking pillars, is a very large, immaculate-looking vase. White porcelain with a blue dragon and swirled clouds decorating the outside of it. Large tassels hang from the ceiling above. The tassels themselves somewhat blown about by these two large golden rings that spin very quickly around this vase of their own accord, not touching anything, just spinning in place, creating this wind. The vase has these glowing orbs that are about the size of maybe a large fig. And some of them spill from the top and are almost pulled into orbit around these golden rings as they fly around. The Emperor approaches this dais where this vase is standing, and he says, "This is the vessel of clarity. If you so choose, take one of these orbs as your own." He simply motions to the vase.
Minori will approach and kind of give a bow slightly. It's a great honor to receive a gift from His Imperial Majesty. And then despite that, he will still approach forwards and reach for one and see what happens.
Make a dexterity saving throw, please.
Ooh. That is 23.
With blinding speed, you reach out and snatch a hold of one of these orbs. It is blue. This orb is pulsing with light and is strangely cold to the touch. The Emperor nods and says, "Well done. Anyone else?"
Goro will come forward and she will bow very deeply. She says, "I will," and she will reach out to take one.
Go ahead and make that dexterity save.
Okay, that comes to 16.
Okay. With a little bit more effort, Yoru, you reach out and grab a hold of one. You fumble with it for just a second before you manage to actually get a good firm grip upon it. And you have grabbed a yellow one. And he kind of nods again. Also well done. A capable group.
Thank you, Your Imperial Majesty. It is a great honor. And she bows again.
Suki would step up as well, bow, and look for one, grab out for it. And just a regular straight dex, you're looking at 18.
Okay. So Suki also kind of times it, waits for his opening, and then lashes out, grabs a hold of one of these orbs, and brings it back to him, this one being green. And again, the Emperor nods in approval.
Shin approaches, bows while bowing. Your Imperial Majesty, I am not worthy to receive such a humble gift, though I will accept. And will reach in. 23 on the save.
Again, very, very quickly reaches out, likewise grabbing a hold of a yellow one. The Emperor turns to Tadashi. What of you?
He takes a deep breath and steps forward, and as he does so, he looks at Copper and says, "Prepare yourself. You will not stand aside in this battle to come." And he reaches out to grab it. He said it's a dex save?
Correct.
So, a total of a 19.
You managed to reach out as well. Not quite as deftly as some of the people, but still with certainty. You reach out and grab a hold of an orange one.
And he turns and looks to His Majesty and says, "Son of Heaven, I am honored by this gift. The Nintai clan family appreciates the honor."
He kind of bows his head just slightly, tipping his forehead downward. And he says, "If everything that you have told me today is true, and things escalate as I fear they will, then it is this empire who will owe all of you a great deal of thanks. This is a token of our appreciation." So he then turns to Copper.
She kind of looks at him and almost stutters. I will try. Bows nervously 2 or 3 times. Goes forward, and her little halfling fingers are actually pretty quick as she takes a quick grab at one of the balls.
She likewise kind of waits until one of these kind of comes low in orbit. And then she reaches out and grabs a hold of another blue one. Perhaps maybe a little surprised that she was able to do so with ease, much the same as the rest of you.
In fact, even a little better than I did. And Yoru nods approvingly. Well done, Copper.
Well done, all of you. These orbs, you should spend some time with them, rest, sleep with them nearby. And I think you will find that they bring, in fact, a good deal of clarity. We will need it in the times ahead. And he kind of looks up and says, our guest has arrived. As you see that an attendant had stepped into that same circular doorway, and the Emperor noticed. You walk back across the courtyard to the room that you were in just moments before. and you find an individual standing in the room that wasn't there before. This individual is not too dissimilar from some of the ones that you have met previously, although briefly in my Chalky. Though this one is a female. And most of the ones that you met before were male. And she is, though very much Jacosian in appearance, her stance, her manner of dress looks fairly Tsitian. She lowers herself to her knees and prostrates her forehead against the floor several times in succession before the Emperor. The Emperor turns and says, "May I introduce to you Golden Death?" That is where we are going to stop for this evening. So thank you very much to anybody who tuned in for this session. Thank you very, very much for anybody who may be tuning in at a later date. And of course, thank you very much to my fine 5 players for playing this evening. I am going to pass it over to them so that they can do their outros before we wrap this thing up and call it a night. So we will kind of go in as much of a reverse order as I can manage. Scott, why don't you go first?
I'm Scott, and I am playing Xianwu Tsukiko, a nice little fighter here, and having excellent fun with this game. The story is very in-depth, dude. I love all the Asian culture that you're manipulating into this, and can't wait till next time.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Next up is Jeff.
Yep, I'm Jeff. You can check out the games that I run, as well as some other videos that I've been working on at Counterbalance, as well as me alongside Jeremy, our wonderful GM here, and Chad Nick at the Dudes of Yore. New episode will be coming out pretty soon for that, so please give those a check if you will. Yeah, super awesome game. I really enjoyed tonight.
Sorry about that. I was typing goodbye to everybody in the YouTube chat. Next up, Dave.
Hey, folks. If you're still with us here, thanks for hanging in. My name's Dave, and I run the channel Mornblade Gaming, and appreciate you watching tonight. I've been playing Nintai Tadashi Nintai, the once Ronin, now samurai of the Scorpion Clan. And yeah, I love this game and look forward to next session. If you haven't had a chance, check out Absolute Tabletop, the official group on Facebook, and well worth your time. That's how we pulled this game together. So thank you, Jeremy, and thank you, everyone else.
Absolutely my pleasure. It was a little bit of a gap between the last time that we managed to play this session, this game, and so I'm very, very glad to kind of get back to it. We're kind of nearing the beginning of the end. This is kind of things starting to come to a close. I think we have probably about 3, maybe 4 sessions left. So I'm very, very excited where the story has gone so far and what's still going to head in the future. Next up, we have Alan.
Jeremy, I love the NPCs, man. They're so great. They're memorable. They're unique. And they really just kind of like immerse you in the world. So, and it never cease to be surprised either. You expect to one thing and get another, and it's great. As always, fellow players, always bringing in the good role playing, which is always a pleasure, and I love playing with all you guys. So if you haven't subscribed to Jeremy's channel, do so. Why not? It's a great channel. He's got good stuff on there. Subscribe to everybody else's channel and the content. Check out Absolute Tabletop Facebook group. Wonderful group to be a part of. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you at the gaming table.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I second all of that. Go visit all these people's channels. You can find the descriptions to their channels. Nope, not the descriptions. In the description, the link to their channels. I'll get it one of these days down below. Last but certainly not least for their outro, Carol.
Hi, I'm Carol, there again of Dunsters and Dragons. Got to know all these wonderful people on Absolute Tabletop. It's just a great place to meet some great people and get involved in games and gaming, and I've learned just a ton there. I will say my channel does not have a lot of videos, but you're certainly welcome to go watch the ones that are there, and there'll be more eventually as time goes on. And go to all these guys' channels because they're all really good and they've all got something to offer. Enjoyed playing with you all just a lot. And thank you very much for running this for us, Jeremy. I'm glad that you let us talk you into it. I remember how we started.
I do believe
run this game.
I do believe that is a topic of conversation at the end of every one of these. Thank you for letting us talk you into running this game.
I'm glad that you guys did.
It's been great.
I ran the long-term campaign for my home group in this setting, and it was a lot of fun. And truth be told, even though it ran for quite some time, I wasn't entirely ready to say goodbye to the setting, or at least put it on ice yet. So having the chance to kind of go back and tell this story of this war that kind of led up to that campaign has been a lot of fun. You guys have been doing a killer job with it, and giving me a lot of really cool additional stuff to kind of add to that backstory, to really flesh it out. So,
and I really much want to second the thing about Jeremy. They are fantastic.
What's that? Sorry?
All your NPCs, I want to second that. They are really awesome. I totally enjoy them.
Thank you very much, Carol. I appreciate that. I'm glad. I have to come up with very flavorful NPCs in order to have them not disappear into the background compared to the 5 characters that you guys play. So I'm glad to attempt to keep pace with you. And I'm very, very thankful that they are so well received, as well as the setting itself. So everyone, thank you very, very much. This has been session 8 for the Ashes of Heaven. I got it right this time. Our Asian campaign set in the world of Rostfin. And yeah, in 2 days' time, we will have a session of On the Rise, which is the other one, also set in the world of Rostfin. But until next time, may your dice roll high and your snacks always be within reach.